What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's my team selection for Game Week 15. So I'm going to talk you through how the team is looking and talk about what transfer I want to make this week. Remember, we have to use all our transfers before Game Week 16 because we're going to get topped up to 5 free transfers in the next game week. And I'll quickly show you, unfortunately, how I did in Game Week 14. It wasn't quite so good as Game Week 13. So let's get into it. So let's start with Game Week 14. And I have to say, I'm recording this straight after the Man United West Ham game. So I'm not in the best of moods. Watching that game as a Man United fan was horrible. It was such a bad performance. And then it gets even worse from an FPL point of view because I had Cunha for 3 points and Bruno Fernandes captain for 4. And obviously that doubles to 8. So all around, a really disappointing night and a terrible game week. 57 points. And a red arrow from 18k down to 48k. Now, when I sit back and think about it, I'll probably realise that top 50k after 14 game weeks is absolutely fine. But to go from the highs of free hit 13, going from 125k to 18k, to then drop back down straight away, it is a bit disappointing. So I know the rank is still good at this stage of the season, but how I've got there after last week kind of sucks a bit, and I don't see me captaining Fernandes again anytime soon. I know he's got Wolves at home in Game Week 19, which is a great fixture, but that same week I think Haaland's got Sunderland away. I just don't think I can do it to myself. I said a few weeks ago I wanted to try and take Haaland on in Game Weeks 12, 14, 16, but when it got to Game Week 14, I just wasn't quite sure about it. Fulham away, it didn't seem that bad, and I still made the decision to switch the captaincy. So that's going to haunt me for a few game weeks, I'm sure. But hopefully once Game Week 15 starts, I'll try and forget about it. But just not great. It was a fixture play against West Ham. And he put up about 0.7 expected goal involvement, more than players like Cunha and Mbeumo. But as always, it just doesn't reflect in the actual points. And he hit the post again. I think that's the third or fourth time he's hit the woodwork this season. It's just not quite happening at the times I need it to happen. And to be fair, he hasn't blanked that much recently. But obviously it's massively frustrating when he does it when you've captained him. So I don't see me going against Haaland that much going forward because the punishment's just too much if it goes wrong, basically. And I am willing to take him on again, but I think the circumstances almost have to be perfect. So take Game Week 16, for example, when Saka's got Wolves at home. Because he's just been benched, I'm going to be much more or much less confident in doing that. So the circumstances now for me to go against Haaland really do have to be perfect. Like maybe Haaland's got a slight knock and we're not quite sure if he's going to start, or there's another player I'm 100% sure is going to start, which is super attacking. I don't know. But this week it was unfortunate. No, not unfortunate. It was just bad. I should have just kept in Haaland. Simple as that. I'm 10 points down on that. By the way, the reason there's an asterisk next to my rank is because I've taken it from the Fantasy Football Hub live rank tool, because I'm recording this so quickly after the game FPL hasn't updated. So it'll be in and around 48k. So top 50k, not terrible, but it feels disappointing. That is just FPL in a nutshell. Like if you'd gone from 200k to top 100k this week, you'd be absolutely happy about that. Whereas I've dropped to just inside the top 50k and I'm disappointed. But like I said, I feel a bit better in a couple of days, I'm sure. My attack basically was pretty terrible. So Haaland was great, but his points didn't really help me because I didn't captain him and everyone else did. Saka off the bench with 6 points and a goal. Everyone else, Fernandes' defensive contributions, couldn't even keep a clean sheet against West Ham. Cunha 3 points, Minte 2, Dewsbury Hall 3, MATETA 2. Just super disappointing. Defensively, things were a bit better. Raya 6 points, Van Dijk 4. Timber came off the bench, not ideal, for 1 point. And then Lacroix got 8. So 3 of my 4 defensive players returned. The problem is, even in that situation, like Lacroix got 8 points, which is nice. Of course it is. But he was actually the worst Palace defender that people own in FPL. Like Richards, I think, got 9. And Gay got an assist and bonus. And Munoz got a goal and bonus. So even Lacroix, obviously it's better than not owning Palace defenders. But I still had the worst one. So 57 points. Massively disappointing. And you always want to kick on when you go, or when you get a big green arrow. But it's not season over. I said that when I captained Bruno. Is it going to completely destroy my season? Probably not. And obviously it hasn't helped. I'll be in a much better position if I captain Haaland, but it's not season over or anything like that, even though maybe it feels like that at times. So disappointing week. Game week 15, we've got to get our transfers used ahead of the top up. So let's talk about that, and hopefully we get back to the green arrows. So I've only got one free transfer to use this week and nothing in the bank. I think from a defensive point of view, things look kind of okay in terms of the players I've got are still pretty good for the long term, but it doesn't necessarily look ideal this week because it's all away games. So double Arsenal defence against Villa, not completely convinced they're going to get a clean sheet there, but it doesn't really matter. I've got to play Timber. And obviously Ray is my goalkeeper, so I'm not going to make a switch there, especially when Dubravka's got Newcastle away. Timber obviously got benched in the midweek game week for game week 14, which is not ideal. Next time they have a midweek fixture, I'm going to be concerned. But he's going to start against Villa, I'm pretty sure about that. And then I'm pretty sure he'll start against Wolves as well, because after that they've got a week's rest until the next game. The only slight issue there is Ben White came in and played really well. He got man of the match. So it might be that Arteta sees that and plays him a bit more if he thinks that he can trust him to give Timber a bit more time off. But I think basically Timber will still be fine until we see more to say that he's not. So I expect Ben White to get minutes, but I suspect it will come in the Champions League and Carabao Cup more than the Premier League. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Timber against Villa, Ben White in the Champions League, then Timber against Wolves again. So I'm not panicking on him, but obviously we'll keep an eye on it. And if it starts being a problem, then Timber might have to be moved to someone else. But right now, no concerns about that. Virgil van Dijk, I'm basically in two minds. There's part of me that thinks he's absolutely fine, but I do have one eye on maybe selling him if I need money soon. Because when I get to game week 16, we've got 5 free transfers. The pressure to buy Foden is going to build if he has another good game against Sunderland, and I can't get him all that easily without making a downgrade. Unless I want to sell Cunha, and I'll come on to that a little bit later. So Van Dijk might go, but I do think ultimately, unless I really need the money, I kind of want to keep him. And game week 14 was a good example of why he's such a good pick over Christmas, because you do not have to worry about him starting. And yes, he didn't get a clean sheet, but he still got a 4-pointer. And actually, I was checking earlier, Liverpool have kept the opponent down to 0.5 XG or less in 3 of the last 5 games, which are pretty good defensive numbers. So they're having such a weird season where we watch them and we know they're not playing at their absolute best, but the stats are saying that soon the results may come, right? So I'm clinging on to hope with that, knowing he's going to start every game. He's got attacking threat in his locker as well. I'm basically not in a panic about selling Van Dijk. And if I do have to keep him for the next 4 or 5 games, I'm kind of okay with that. The only player I don't own that I would really like, I suppose, is Munoz, because of how attacking he is. And every time he scores a goal, you can't help but think to yourself, how do I not own this guy? But at the same time, he's on 4 yellow cards. And he's got Fulham away, followed by Man City at home. I know my playstyle. I'm not going to buy Munoz. So I do have fear of missing out with Phil Foden. And obviously, I do have it to a certain extent with Munoz because he scored 2 goals in the last 3 weeks. But I don't feel the same pressure to buy Munoz. And I know that sounds weird because he could easily go and score another 2 goals in the next 3 game weeks. But I'm just not in a rush to get him, weirdly. I think I'm kind of okay with Van Dijk for now. And then my third defender is Lacroix against Fulham away. Now, I do have Anderson on the bench against Palace at home, who arguably is a better pick this week. But because I've got Mateta still in the 11, I think I'm going to play Lacroix rather than have my attacker against my defender. Now, I don't think attack versus defence matters so much this season because of defensive contributions, but I'm not sure Anderson is miles better than Lacroix anyway. So that's why Lacroix is in the team. If I'm thinking about which teams are likely to get clean sheets this week, it's probably Man City versus Sunderland, but I'm not going to bring in any of their defenders this week. Newcastle against Burnley, obviously Chow's been really popular since those 2 goals. Dan Burn's still got a bit of ownership as well. And I could go there, but I'm not convinced with Newcastle that I'm that worried about holding them longer term. Like, I think Chow is good, and I think Newcastle will do well over the next few weeks. But it's away to Sunderland, then it's home to Chelsea, away to Man United. This doesn't scream massive points to me. Obviously, Burnley at home and Burnley away at either side is really nice. And then Palace, like, I don't know. I look at the long-term fixtures and I see why people are going for Newcastle defence. But 3 of the next 4 I'm not as worried about. And I don't think Chow and Burn are like Anderson and Senesi when it comes to defensive contributions. They can get them, of course, but they're not going to get them all the time. So I think buying a Newcastle defender is fine. You could almost say they're a good long-term pick, but I'm not in a mad rush to get them for the next 4. I don't think. So I'm probably not going to go for that. And also, I've got no money in the bank anyway. So unless I sell Lacroix or Van Dijk or Timber, I can't get them. So actually, that was just pointless to even talking about that. The defender move I'm thinking about making is Senesi to Vandenberg, who's only 4.5 million, has Leeds at home. So Spurs away this week, I would just bench him. So I'm benching Senesi anyway. I can just bench Vandenberg instead. Then he's got Leeds at home, followed by Wolves away. And then I think it's Bournemouth at home after that. Let me just double check here for Brentford. So let me just check Brentford here. Yeah, Leeds at home, Wolves away, Bournemouth at home, Spurs at home, Everton away, Sunderland at home. So there's not too many fixtures in that run. I'd be massively worried about playing him. Obviously, Brentford defence is not elite or anything like that, but it's okay, I think, for a lot of those fixtures. And I wouldn't have to play him every week anyway, right? He's only 4.5 million. And it would free up a little bit of cash as well, which might come in useful if I want to get Foden down the line. So I think unless something changes tomorrow when I hear the press conferences, and I'm recording this on Thursday night, by the way, as I said, I think Senesi to Vandenberg is a consideration, but I could quite easily just go through this week without making a defender change. So my midfield actually looks okay this week, apart from one glaring omission, and that is no Phil Foden. And I am a little bit worried about what he might do to me against Sunderland at home. I know some people are saying that he could get benched, and obviously there is a possibility with Real Madrid in the midweek afterwards. But Foden's the kind of player that Pep won't need to rest. Like, he's mentioned this many times before in press conferences. Foden's one of the players that he's just ready to go again 2 or 3 days later. So I think Foden will start against Sunderland. This could be one of those games where he gets an early sub, especially if the game is won nice and early. But Sunderland have made it tough for lots of opponents. So I can easily see Foden getting 80 to 90, then playing again against Real Madrid, then again against Crystal Palace. So I am worried about him, but I can't get to him unless I sell Bruno Fernandes or Saka or take a hit. And I'm not going to take a hit when we got 5 free transfers next week. The problem is he's already gone up in price. He'll probably go up again before the deadline. And then as long as he continues to play and do well, that price is going to continue to skyrocket. Like 4 goals in 2 games, your price is only going one way. So not only is it going to cost me more to get him eventually, and I'm probably not eyeing him up until game week 17, his ownership's also getting really high. Like if you look at the transfers in this week, top defender is Munoz, 130,000. Foden is over 600,000 and counting. Like it's getting to the point where it's kind of scary not to own him. But that is also partly because of 4 goals in 2 games, which is obviously not something that's going to continue. Had he scored 2 goals in the last 2 games, would I be as concerned? Probably not. So that's how I'm trying to get myself to cope with not having Foden. Had he only scored a couple of goals, I wouldn't be so concerned. So I think for now, I'm kind of okay not having him, but it could look pretty horrible after the Sunderland game. Basically, I've got Cunha where a lot of people are going to have Foden. And Cunha, I don't know about him as a pick, honestly. I think it's going to take me a few game weeks to settle down about his starts. Like every game week, I'm going to be checking whether he's in that lineup, because it could easily be Mbeumo, Xerxes and Mount as the front 3, at least until Mbeumo goes to African Cup of Nations. My hope is that Cunha will have to play a lot of minutes because Xerxes is not a guaranteed number 9. And Mason Mount, we saw he played 90 minutes and then he couldn't start the West Ham game. He came out of the team. Like he's not going to be able to play loads of minutes over Christmas. And obviously Mbeumo goes to AFCON. Now that might be a massive problem, by the way, losing Ahmad and Mbeumo, but at least Cunha's going to play and the fixtures are good. So I don't want to panic on it. Like, even if I had the money in the bank, would I sell Cunha before Wolves away? I'm not sure I would. He wasn't good, by the way, against West Ham. And he came off like 75 minutes. So I think he could soon become a problem, but I don't want to make a rash decision. Basically, I've had him for 1 game in my team. Game week 12, I bought him. He missed out. Game week 30, I free hit. Then he played against West Ham. So I want to give him a little bit of time. I think generally the minutes will be good, but I can't imagine that anyone watched that West Ham game and is now in a panic about not owning Cunha. And my hope of him matching Foden over the next few weeks, that just looks stupid. So that's the deal with Foden. I can't buy him this week. Maybe 16, maybe 17. But that's going to be the earliest that I get him. I need the transfers to free up the cash, or I need to sell Saka or Bruno. Bruno's probably not going to go anywhere. He's going to play every minute over Christmas. And I can't sell Saka before Wolves at home in game week 16. So I've just got to accept that I'm not going to have Foden for Sunderland at home. I'm probably not going to have him for Palace away. I'll come back to it against West Ham at home in 17 and pay about 9.2 million for him, I'm sure. So Cunha's going to stay. Fernandes is going to stay. I can't even guarantee that Cunha will start against Wolves, by the way. But I hope he will. Saka will definitely start because he missed the game against Brentford. There's no way Arteta doesn't put him back in the team. And then Minte, first week of owning him last week against Villa. I didn't watch the whole game because there was lots of games on at the same time, so I was flicking around a little bit. But I did watch the majority of the first half. Wasn't that impressed with Minte, it has to be said, but it's only one game. And obviously he's done well this season, and it's West Ham at home. And I tweeted this during the Man United game. I'm pretty sure Brighton and Man City between them will put up 5 or 6 goals plus against West Ham. I just don't think they're that great a defence. Man United are just not very good. So I've still got hope with Minte. I think he's got Liverpool away in game week 16, so maybe I'll move him on for a short-term punt. But if I have to play him against Liverpool, it's not the end of the world. And then I've got Dewsbury Hall against Forest at home. Little bit worried about him at the moment because he's playing a bit deeper with the Adriska Nagay suspension. But it's not the worst fixture, Forest at home. I am tempted to play 4-4-2 and bench Dewsbury Hall and play both Lacroix and Anderson because they're both so good for defensive contributions. But I'm not sure about it. I'll have to make a decision on that. Basically, I'm going to play 2 of Lacroix, Dewsbury Hall, Anderson. Minte, Cunha, Fernandes, Saka are going to go nowhere. I just have to hope that Foden doesn't score 2 goals again. And then up front, I've made a really big decision. Erling Haaland is going to be my captain this week against Sunderland at home. I thought a lot about it. Bruno Fernandes against Wolves away, definitely a consideration. Maybe even Saka against Villa away. But I'm going to go with Haaland. I don't know if anyone else is doing that, but that is exactly what I'm going to do. And obviously, I'm not going to sell him anytime soon unless he picks up an injury. Simple as that. Same strategy as everybody else. MATETA, on the other hand, is becoming a little bit of a problem. Subbed on 63 minutes in the last game week, subbed on 59 in game week 12. Did play 90 minutes against Man United in between that. But his minutes definitely take a dip with the fixture congestion and the fact that Nketiah is available, right? So that is a sub that Glasner can make. I'm still not fully sure what to make of MATETA. Like, part of me thinks his minutes are definitely going to dip moving forward, and that is a problem. And the move to Thiago just seems so obvious because I'll save some money. Brentford have got Leeds at home in 16, Wolves away in 17. The fixture run's pretty good. He's less money, no fixture congestion either. Obviously, you got the additional games around Christmas, but everyone has those. There's no Europe for Brentford or anything like that. So I'm I understand that Mateta's not as good a pick as he was, but I'm still not fully convinced that he's completely dead as a pick either. So I'm not quite sure what to do there, but I'm fairly certain I'll end up doing Mateta to Thiago either this week or next week. Now, one option I could go with, if I'm not quite sure about that move, is just to do Senesi to Vandenberg, play Mateta against Fulham away, which is fine, and then decide what to do in 16. Like, my hope was that I would get to 16 with 5 free transfers and just use 1 and keep rolling them. I think the reality is I'll probably use 2 at least in 16. So Mateta to Thiago and then Minte to Sharda gives me 2 attackers against Leeds at home, Wolves away, basically. Sharda's on 4 yellow cards, which is super annoying. Because if he picks it up against Leeds, obviously he'll miss the Wolves game. But I'll have the transfers to fix it if I need to. So that's something that's playing on my mind. So I could do Senesi to Vandenberg. And then in 16, Mateta to Thiago. Mateta to Thiago. You need to say that a bit slower, otherwise it doesn't sound right. And then Minte, when he plays Liverpool away, to Sharda. Or I just do the Thiago move and roll the other 4. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments about Mateta. Obviously, he's a worse pick than he was a few weeks ago. But I'm not completely convinced he's done as a pick. But Thiago would just be nice. And also, if I do the Thiago move, it just frees up a little bit of money. Now, it probably won't be as much money when I actually make the move because I'm sure Thiago will go up in price again tonight probably. But it gives me 1.1 million. So this is what I was kind of saying with Van Dijk. I'm not eager to sell him, but I could sell him. So if I want to do Minte to Foden, I mean, I'll be honest with you, right? I'm not convinced I need to keep Cunha. But let's say I want to keep Cunha, Fernandes and Saka and I want to get Foden. If I do the Thiago move in, I need to make up 0.9 million. So that's just Van Dijk to a 5.1 or below defender, which is obviously easily doable. Or if I do Thiago in for Mateta, 1.1 million, I mean, that gives me enough just to do Cunha to Foden. If I decide after a couple more, like, I'll probably give Cunha 15 and 16, then make a decision. And if he's just not cutting it, then I can get Foden. And obviously I'm going to pay more than 8.2 million, but I'm not rushing in to make that decision. And that's probably the cleaner way to get Foden. It just requires less transfers, which is kind of nice. I don't know, midfield's a bit weird at the moment. Like a few weeks ago, everyone was looking at like Njai and Sarr and Enzo Fernandez, 6 to 7 million midfielders. It's really dried up now. Like when you look at the midfield pool, it feels like you've got to go and spend 8 to 9 million, or even more than that to get like a Saka, maybe Palmer soon. Like if I look at the midfield list for total points, I mean, Semenyo, I might come back to him against Burnley. No one else in like the top 10 outside of Foden I'm really that interested in, or I already own them. Like Neto at Chelsea, I mean, he's just been benched. I really want to go there, not so sure. Bruno Guimaraes is fine if I was buying this week or next, I guess. I mean, the fixture run is, I've got to come back to it. The fixture run is pretty nice for Newcastle. So I don't hate him as a pick at 6.7, but I'm not like dreaming of having Bruno Guimaraes in my midfield. Like it's fine if I need someone, but I'm not going to go out of my way to get him. So yeah, I don't know what to do about Cunha and Foden, but I think the Thiago move has to happen. I just think maybe it's better to get Vandenberg first for Senesi. The thing with, I'm rambling a bit now, the thing with Mateta to Thiago is if I'm like 90% certain I'm going to do that in 16, doing it this week is quite nice because it could potentially save you a transfer down the line. Because it means I get to 16 without having to make that move. I can just make one other instead. And is Thiago against Spurs away that much worse than Mateta against Fulham away, especially if he's going to get subbed early again? Maybe not. It's difficult to know. I'm going to check my suggested transfers on the My Team tool on Fantasy Football Hub. I've not looked at this week. I'm interested to see. Okay, it wants me to take out Timber for some reason. I understand that because he's just been benched and maybe there's a minutes concern going forward, but I just don't. I mean, O'Reilly is good. It's Sunderland at home, to be fair. O'Reilly's underlying stats are very, very good. They're quite close to Munoz in terms of attacking threat. So I don't hate that, but I can't see any reason to get rid of Timber right now. If you want to check your recommended transfers, by the way, link in the description below, as always, or scan that QR code on screen. I think that's one where I'm going to disagree and probably not make it myself. So that's my team. Haaland captain, Saka vice. I'm going to obviously use my transfer, but I'll wait and see what the press conferences hold on Friday. Senesi to Vandenberg or Mateta to Thiago. Like, one thing I've not talked about, by the way, is taking a 1 week punt. Because actually, if I thought O'Reilly was definitely starting, I could do Timber to O'Reilly and then back again. I would lose some money on Timber. But 1 week punts are things I've not talked about. I could go from Mateta to Voltemada for Burnley at home and then go to Thiago. That's so much harder to say than you think it would be. But it just delays the move. If I know I want Thiago, I'd probably just go straight to him. Or I could do like one of my defenders to a Newcastle. It just doesn't feel that interesting. There's no midfield punt that I want to take apart from Foden, but I'm not going to do Fernandes to Foden because I know I want Fernandes back. Same with Saka for Wolves at home. So O'Reilly, I'm going to let everyone out. Not let everyone else. I'm going to hope that everyone gets O'Reilly and he keeps losing the clean sheet because at some point he's going to put in a big score. I just don't think he's one for me right now. So to Mateta to Thiago or Senesi to Vandenberg is probably what I'm looking at. But I'll have an update for you on final thoughts later once I've heard all the press conferences. If you've enjoyed that, make sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button. And I'll be back later on today for final thoughts.